Well, hello there, everyone. It's Mike Lowe here with SimSportsGaming.com. We are at Draft Day. I will explain the screen you're seeing here in just a minute because it probably looks a little strange. But before I do that, let me introduce Ryan Hetzer, who is joining us today. It's kind of our dual broadcast covering the draft. Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Mike, good. How are you? I'm glad to. I'm honored to be here with you for this one. We've tried to connect for a couple recent episodes, and timing hasn't been right. So I'm glad to have been able to connect for this kind of special draft episode. So yeah, cool. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks. I mean, these are really fun. The times we've done it, and again, just kind of syncing up different time zones and whatnot. But I'm glad we're able to go through this. And the Wednesday game itself, that was actually played last night. If you missed it, it was a pretty epic game. It was actually probably one of the better games of the season. I won't spoil too much about it, but it was the second game of the Oakland series. Thursday will be the rubber match of the Oakland series, the third game there. And of course, here I played that game early so that we'd have time to really go through the draft. My real life, I mean, work's been super busy this week, and just little things like that. And so just wanted to make sure I had time to do this and be able to stream it and whatnot. So yeah, thanks for joining everyone. Again, we are going to be just going through the draft here, and I actually just tweeted out to the MLB The Show Twitter, just kind of mentioning one of the issues we saw where players aren't keeping their secondary position players, that is. So if you have a center fielder and his secondary positions are left and right field, those are gone. I mean, they disappear. They don't come back as far as I've seen. I don't know if they ever come back. So it's kind of weird because you got 6 rounds plus compensatory picks, and so you're looking at close to 200 players that you may need to go in and edit, and that could be a problem. And so, that's something I am trying to decide here. I've made a backup at this point just in case there is a fix, and maybe I'm only a game or two ahead. Maybe I could back up and redo it or something. So that's a suggestion I would have, is to create a backup at this point, because if it's patched, I don't know if it's going to fix itself, but it would probably work if you save it the day of the draft where the players still have the proper position. It messes up as soon as you jump into this screen here, which is this is a dummy league that we were just testing something out in, but it would show up here when you start the draft. So what you're seeing on this screen here is a test league that I set up, because something, and I'll be honest, so jumping into this, I have the first overall pick with the Tigers. I still don't know who I'm going to pick. I haven't even looked at the pitchers. I've just been too busy, and the last night I needed to get to sleep. And so there's a handful of pitchers I'm considering. I would say there's probably like 4, maybe 5 players I'm giving consideration to for the number 1 overall pick. And what I'm trying to decide is to me, the game is set up in kind of a weird way, where like you will show up to the draft, and if you haven't found all of the different players, you obviously can't scout those players. And so when the draft starts, you have like this mystery player or a handful of mystery players who just turn up in your draft. And I was joking with Ryan earlier, it's kind of like an episode of WWE where suddenly this new masked man walks through the curtain and everyone's aghast. And it just seems really silly. Like, players don't show up to any amateur sports draft unknown to the community, especially if they're looking to be like a top pick. It just doesn't make any sense. So I share all that because what I'm trying to decide is, should we do like a quick simulation of the draft? It would look something just like you're seeing here, and then that would we could kind of treat that as like a mock draft or something. The only question is, I don't know how quickly or I don't know how close the AI follows this each time. The beauty of the baseball draft is there's no trading, so it wouldn't really matter. The Tigers only have 1 pick, and I can tell you this, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't click over to the other rounds. It would simply be, okay, who are basically, and for some reason it skips your pick when you do this, but it would at least give us like the top 29. And so it would kind of just let us see like, oh, here's the guys we're looking at. They're kind of slotted here. So it makes sense. But my worry is that this isn't a mock draft. This is a real draft, right? And so I'm worried that it would maybe show too much. One thing I did notice is that these potentials here, these are your scouted potentials. So that's good news in a way if you ever did want to try this as a mock draft, because it's not like suddenly you scouted this guy, he was a 70, but he's drafted and he's actually a 75. It's not doing that. He is just what he's showing here as being scouted. And again, this is that dummy test league. So, and you can see what's interesting though is that you're getting talent all the way. I mean, there's guys at least from what the Tigers in this fake league scouted or haven't scouted that are falling all the way to the round 5. Now again, that's probably just means that maybe this guy scouted out. Most teams scouted him and he wasn't very good. And that's something to keep in mind for players who you haven't scouted, and maybe they're not so, or they look really, really good, but maybe they're not. Because again, Sanady falling to the 6th round, for instance, in this little test league, what does that actually mean? It probably means he's more, a guy like this, right? Like a 55 potential with the sweet beard. And so, again, it's just hard to gauge that, but I would keep it really, really simple and look at this. So, again, I'm truthfully undecided about what would be the best approach. And part of me is just saying, hey, wing it. That's just how the game is. You didn't scout, too bad. The AI doesn't get a look at this. And that's kind of where I'm leaning. Ryan, do you have any thoughts? Or what would you do in this predicament?
Yeah, I'm torn. We were talking about it just a little bit before coming on the broadcast here, but yeah, I'm torn because I think if you consider realism as your kind of your backdrop, as your everything you do, you're trying to kind of recreate that realism. Then in that case, you wouldn't have that WWE guy that just this unknown potential number 1 pick that just you have no scouting information on. You never had a chance to scout him. You don't know. That wouldn't happen. So that's one side of it. But then, I get the fact that you don't necessarily want to, do something that might manipulate the draft a little bit in your favor because that might feel, I know that you and I have also talked a lot about, kind of just feeling dirty about doing certain things or cheating the game in certain ways. And so there's that piece too. So I know that's not a very helpful answer because I'm not, I guess ultimately, it's your franchise. You have to make the choice, but I can see an argument both ways. I really can. I don't know.
No, for sure. I think at this point I'm leaning towards not doing this little fake mock draft because it's just, hell, I had a chance. I could have adjusted my scouting differently. It didn't. And again, there's still a good chance that, a player like that might just be a bum or just an average at best player. So the decision is going to come down to do you completely roll the dice or do you not? And I have some other thoughts on that, but let's actually load up the proper league here and we can go in and jump in. Again, I think the biggest bummer for me right now is just that the secondary positions, it seems like at best, because normally I might even just pause for a week and be like, well, maybe, Ryan just retweeted what I posted and said that he mentioned it to them. He has a kind of a direct line of communication, having done the rosters with them and whatnot. And so he said hey, I just mentioned this to them. So, it's very realistic it gets fixed. And I think if I wasn't trying to keep up with the daily schedule, I'd probably hey, you know what, I'm going to pause this franchise for a week or 5, just to see if we get a fix here because I really don't want to edit these guys manually. It's kind of a pain. So again, I'm kind of torn. I guess worst case, what I could also do is I would guess the AI probably makes the same picks. And so long as I make the same picks, I could always just back it up or something and maybe lose a few games, which would suck. But at that point, it's probably just quicker just to edit 200 players versus play a week's worth of games. So, but anyway, but we are at this draft. As I mentioned, I don't know who I'm picking. I totally don't know. By the way, I'm assuming if you went back to watch the previous episode, this is no longer a spoiler. But this was the game last night. Really, really just epic game. This is probably the most enjoyable game I remember playing this season, and we actually lost. I think it's also the longest home run I've ever hit on Legend. I think it was 464 feet with Nico Goodrum in the 6th inning. There was just an absolute bomb of a home run. We had just a complete 2-strike. I don't think it was 2 outs, but just a just clutch home run by Cameron Maben in the 9th to tie it, and then unfortunately 2 pitches into the bottom of the 9th, we take the loss on another home run. There was a 12 or 13 mile an hour wind blowing out the center field this game, and it really showed. The Bay Area can definitely get some significant wind going on. So that was that. Again, the draft, we're gonna jump in. Here's how you get to it after you've already played the game. So just hit sim through date, it's going to give me this kind of note about there's a roster change that needs to be done. And then it says it's time to start the draft. So we're going to go in. Now, the goofy thing about this game is if you don't have the first pick, it just starts picking, right? There's just like no drama. There's nothing there. You can't advance it pick by pick if you wanted. It's kind of a bummer. So it works out really well that I have the first pick because it kind of gives us a chance to look at everything. This is now, though, where you start to see those secondary positions have completely fallen off, right? So again, if I just go to like center field and I just scroll through and you look at secondary positions, they're all gone, right? They vanished. And this was called out. Somebody in the stream yesterday called it out. I forget who it was. I was calling him State because he had this like State of Franchise Gaming or something was his name. But called that out, and sure enough, there is the issue there. Again, it's been tweeted about today. Ryden has said he's escalated it to them, whatever that means. So hopefully it gets some attention. So that brings us to the draft and the first overall pick. And for the longest time, I had pretty much made up my mind that, you know what, Charles Dawson is our guy. If he ever gets the secondary positions back, which he will, some way, shape, or form, it was left field and catcher. The problem is it's going to be really hard to know other players and what their secondary positions are. But that's okay. But he does have some interesting secondary positions. I'm not really too optimistic about him being a catcher, just because his fielding and reaction are so low. That kind of leads me to believe that his blocking is probably also low, which I can't stand in this game. But I think he could be a fine left fielder, and certainly he can play first base. He can also DH. So he's got low injury risk, which is great. Really, really solid bars, and he's fully scouted. So, I mean, this guy, I believe if we go and look at the earliest available players, right? I mean, kind of looking at oh, yeah, there's a bunch of guys who just showed up here. So, again, you can see there's tons of guys who are like MLB ready. I don't remember seeing him yesterday. It's a player from Japan. Was that other right field? There was like two Studley right field. Oh, yeah, I guess he was the other one, huh? Or no, it wasn't. Oh, wow. You know what? It regenerates. So the players you haven't scouted, this isn't the same guy. It was a different right fielder. And if you watched the end of the stream yesterday, this like regenerated different players that weren't discovered. That's really interesting. Because I was going to say, like, there's a lot of random players. There are only like two players who were like MLB ready 2021. So that definitely adds a little wrinkle to it. And I guess it takes care of part of my dilemma. Now, this guy's the same, right? I remember Russ Irby. I remember this name. And I didn't scout. Maybe we discovered him, though, and that's the difference. We discovered him, just didn't scout him. I don't think we discovered, nor did we scout, obviously, David Tamori, or whoever he was yesterday. It was a different name, and also different ratings. So that's really interesting. He also has high injury rating. So we're kind of starting at scratch at this point. I mean, if we look at, maybe we start at the players that we have scouted. And I don't think you can do that anymore. But if we just look and we sort by, say, accuracy, or even better, let's sort by 2021 MLB estimate. I'm looking at these two columns, MLB ETA 2021. Or I should say I'm looking at the ETA and the potential, right? The lower this is, the better. The higher this is, the better. And so as we scroll through, and just real quick too, I want to just see the so there's two players that are currently, according to the game, and we haven't scouted either one, at an 80 overall. So instead of getting that right fielder we got yesterday, we're getting this guy. This guy is now in the mix. So Giancarlo Chavez, low injury ratings from Ohio, looks completely ridiculous. I mean, his talent just looks nuts. He is one of two guys who currently are like an 80-80 right now. I mean, this guy is already an 80 overall, according to this. There's also a starting pitcher, Alberto De La Cruz from Venezuela, low injury risk, who's the same thing. Both those guys have low injury risk. I mean, these guys look like the best players in the draft, but they haven't been scouted at all. They're both 21. So that is kind of an interesting thing there, no doubt. But if we sort by, because of course we're going to want to be looking at somebody with 80 potential, right? And I'm going to ignore the ones that have the plus here in the ETA, like they're going to be, beyond 2023. So we're just going to scroll down. So the first player that we have scouted, and I'm sorting by potential, the first player we have scouted is Charles Dawson, who we looked at, right? So Charles Dawson's in the mix. He is one of the handful of players I'm absolutely considering for number 1 overall. I would also say those 2 players we just looked at that are unscouted but are 80-80 rating, you have to look at those guys as considerations. So those guys are definitely, we're giving some thought to those guys. If I continue to scroll down here, that's the guy we just, actually, we didn't see David Tamori, but there he is. Again, looks pretty solid, but I wouldn't pick him over one of the other 3, especially at a high injury risk. We just saw Giancarlo Chavez, so he's one of the 3. And if we keep scrolling down here, again, just looking for players we actually scouted. So there's Jermaine Burroughs. I'm not really considering him. I don't really like that low K per 9, especially with the mix of a low hit per 9. No thanks. Phil Ham is another guy that we scouted. I like him. I don't think I would pick him number 1 overall. I'm just not sold on his velocity being as low as it is, an 88 mile an hour fastball at 20 years old. I have no idea if that's something that's going to change in the game, but I don't really want to chance it. There were some closing
Mike,
pitchers. Yeah.
Just Doug in the chat came up with those names from yesterday that seem to be now just kind of disappeared. There were Gilberto Veras,
Yes.
and then Russ Irby was the outfielder.
Yeah.
The right fielder that was, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I know what happened, and that's what I was mentioning a few seconds ago. I think Russ Irby, to go back to those names, and I'll continue here in a second, but Russ Irby, he's still in this draft, and I think it's because we discovered him. I just never scouted him. And what I think happened with Gilberto Veras is he basically morphed into that Giancarlo, whatever his name was, where'd he go? Giancarlo Chavez. The difference is that Chavez is a left fielder and Gilberto Veras was a right fielder. But he definitely looks to be that same guy. I mean, just a complete stud of a pitcher. So let me continue on here and just kind of throw out some more names. We said no to Phil Ham. These guys aren't ready early enough. I've mentioned a few times I'm skipping on any kind of closer. Marco Chavez isn't bad. Again, I wouldn't put him in the running for first overall. Again, his velocity just really, really worries me. Manny Moreno is considered one of the blue chip prospects that come pre-drafted. But we fully scouted him, and it's weird because, again, he doesn't look bad at all. He looks like a really good pitcher. But there's guys who we've scouted who look better. Now, I don't know if that's like an out-of-the-park baseball thing where, well, my scout might think so, and my scout might be an idiot. I truly don't know. It's a little worrisome. And again, there's a handful of other players we looked at. I'm not even going to look at closers. But really, I mean, to me, it's like, I don't even know if I think there's really 3 guys at this point. I mean, there's probably some other unscouted guys, but if I'm going to pick an unscouted guy, I'm going to roll the dice with one of those 2 Studley guys. I mean, they're just crazy good. We can scout one more time by ETA and just see if there's any players we did not look at. Pedro Urban, we've talked about. Good player, but again, not somebody I'm really thinking of taking. Again, you could even go a guy like JT Curry, but that 2024 just has me worried about what their potential grade might be. Meaning they might just take a really, really long time to develop, and the number 1 overall pick, I mean, don't have time for that. So, guys, I honestly think I've narrowed it down to at least 3 players at this point. Again, Alberto De La Cruz, injury risk low. Um, Pretty nice pitching repertoire. But I mean, do you trust it? Do you, do you trust it? Here's the other thought too, and this is kind of the strategy I'm leaning towards is like, yes, this guy could be great. We didn't scout him. It's a bummer. If we pass on him, he's probably going to go 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, something like that, right? Then we'll know, like, oh, damn. But what if this guy just isn't very good and he falls to the second round? Then there's another fork in the road. And we could say, well, hell, now we really want to take this guy. Or we just say, oh, geez, this guy must have scouted out pretty bad. So do we wait for the third round or something like that? So again, it's really tough because, I mean, there's a chance you pick this guy and he could be this good. And all the other teams are like, well, yeah, duh, Detroit's going to pick Alberto De La Cruz. He's great. Or there's a chance that he's just complete garbage and we are not even garbage, just like average, right? And we waste the first overall pick on this guy, knowing that we have what seems to be a pretty darn sure thing and a solid player. I mean, more than solid. Again, I mentioned yesterday, this guy's got the makeup of like, a Miguel Cabrera. He's just a much smaller guy. But the same hitting power, a decent fielder. He's got a good arm. I mean, he does everything. He's just slow. So, I mean, he's a safe pick. I mean, this guy's not going to be a bad pick. And I probably have him as like the third best player in the draft. And he's the only one, though, that we know about. And that's what's really freaky. Because, again, the other one, Giancarlo Chavez, I mean, this guy looks ridiculous. He looks ridiculous. You've got some people screaming for Charles Darwin.
I like a bat for sure for the Tigers over the pitching prospect, which I'm not remembering the name, but you're just looking at him. I like the bat option. Just if you look at the strength currently in the minor league system for the Tigers, they have a lot of that young pitching. So not that you can never have enough young pitching, but then you look at the symbolic. You mentioned Cabrera and sort of being at the tail end of his career, and then you look at even like your team right now and kind of the struggles with the bat and being towards the bottom of the league in some of the offensive categories. So I think the impact bat, the potential impact bat is really the clear choice. Now then it's like you're describing quite well. It's like we have this potential just complete stud that could be Hall of Fame type guy, or then you've got a guy who's also very solid looking, but a bit more maybe of a sure thing with the scouting report and everything. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, another way to look at this is Giancarlo Chavez is his scouting could only go down from here, and let's just say it goes down a tick. Now he's going to be faster than Charles Dawson, probably a better fielder. But if the hitting goes down a tick, he's the same type of hitter. And so again, it's kind of like playing blackjack, right? It's like Charles Dawson is like you're at like 17 or you're at like 18 or something at the blackjack table. Like, well, I mean, are you really gonna hit? Like, yeah, you might get 21, but like, and that would be Giancarlo Chavez, but you're much more likely to bust, right? And so, I guess that's but it's like, damn. I mean, this guy's like, his fielding is through the roof. This guy's crazy good. This guy's like young Barry Bonds, just right-handed. Good grief. I mean, I think the only thing that kind of throws me off is that his hitter tendency is opposite, which is kind of interesting for like this dominant of a hitter. Not that that's a red flag. It's just that's kind of a weird thing. To go back to your comment on starting pitching, so I get it. Like I totally get where that makes sense. But my thinking on that is like if I'm bringing up Alberto De La Cruz again. If this guy's to me if he's the best player in the draft, I'm picking him. Number one, like you said, you can never have too much pitching. But two, this isn't like the NFL or NBA where like, well, I already have LeBron James at small forward. I don't need a small forward. These guys, especially with pitching, because you need 5 starters at least. There's going to be plenty of opportunity, and even if we want to build out depth, I want to get the best player, period. Even if we already had, like, say the best player is a center fielder and we have Riley Green, I'm still picking him. because
Yeah.
we can move one of them, we could trade, we can. I mean, it's the most valuable piece to get. And again, that can be something that's used in a trade for later, but it's the most value you can get for that pick. Because a few years is a long time. A lot of things can happen. Um, but again, an unproven starting pitcher, same thing. Very, very risky. Very risky. I mean, we didn't scout this guy at all.
Yeah.
Whereas Charles Dawson, I mean, again, is this guy going to be Barry Bonds? No. But could he be? I mean, like almost like a poor man's Frank Thomas. I mean, again, much smaller. He's 5'11", 174. Um, but I mean, kind of, right? I mean, just like he puts the ball in play, he hits for average, hits for power, he's slow. But I mean, again, that's probably not the greatest comparison, especially when you're talking about the size of the player here. But um,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
I'm trying to think of a smaller first baseman. Most first basemen are a bit taller than that, but yeah, I mean, the hitting profile maybe of a Matt Holliday, or maybe even
Hmm.
a bit above, maybe even a step above that.
Sure.
Daniel in chat is definitely honking for Dawson. Saying you had your eye on him from the beginning, and yeah, I think I mean you've laid it out pretty clearly. I don't know. It's that temptation of the kind of just the absolute stud versus the little bit of a safer pick. I mean, it's tempting. Um,
Yeah. Well, I think I'd have made up my mind, and I think with the first pick, I think you're looking at him right here. I think it's gonna be Charles Dawson, and it's just a pick we can't afford to mess up. Um, Now again, if those guys go 2 and 3, I'm gonna probably cry a little bit because we probably took the third best player in the draft, number one overall. Um, but that's far better. Again, like limiting your losses here. That's far better than picking like the 78th best player, number one overall, right? Like I'm pretty sure this guy. I'm certain he's a top 5 pick in the draft, or at least I think. Again, there's plenty of players we didn't scout, but from what we can tell, I mean, I think it's safe to say he's a safe pick, especially if I can somehow ever get his secondary positions back. And that was one of the big reasons we liked him is this guy could have good blocking. 5'11", 174. That's a perfect catcher size. It's fine for left field. So I mean, he's definitely got some. He has a home here in Detroit. So um, yeah, I
the
think
other thing I
Charles
was thinking
Dawson's our
about
guy.
earlier, sorry, the other
No,
thing I
go
was
ahead.
thinking about earlier with the catching, even if he's not your primary catcher,
Yep.
that can provide a lot of flexibility to where if you in a game you need a pinch hit for your catcher, and then he could still slide in
Yep.
after that. It gives you a lot of versatility. But I didn't want to I didn't want to influence you, but I think I like. One thing you said that resonated was you can't mess this pick up. You're talking about the overall number one overall pick, and those other two guys definitely come with a bit of mystery, a bit of just kind of
Sure.
uncertainty. So, yeah, I think
And like if we were picking like 29th overall and one of those guys were sitting there, I would probably roll the dice. But again, it's like you're measuring the value at that point, right? Of like, well, I can pick kind of like an average first, this guy's gonna be probably solid, but like you're talking like a, say like a, just kind of your average, just MLB player, like, good, but like, boy, to roll the dice and maybe get something really special, I would probably do it. But I think with one overall, I just don't think we can chance it. So we're going to make the pick. We're going to go Charles Dawson. All right, we picked him. Now, can I? Okay, so, well, we got a comp pick too. Nice. Let's go back and review round one. So, second overall, it's not one of the guys we're looking at. I feel much better now. Dante Armas. We did scout this guy. I think we talked about how we didn't really like his 3-pitch repertoire. But Baltimore goes with a starting pitcher. Third overall, another starter that we did scout, or at least was scouted. Reggie McGregor, left-handed starter. I'm kind of worried that like we didn't even like really look at any of these guys. Going fourth overall. Well, I guess I can just cycle through these. Fourth overall, Manny Moreno, starting pitcher again that we did scout. Fifth overall, third baseman Michael Chu, we did scout. So just looking at again the top five here. This is Toronto's pick, 80 potential. This was Kansas City's pick, 80 potential. 80 potential for Miami's pick. So everyone's got 80 potential so far, fully scouted. So I mean, we definitely fell into that range. That makes sense. The sixth pick, Seattle picks Jesse Florval. Really, just strong arm, super fast player. Seventh pick, the Pirates pick Pedro Lopez, shortstop. So again, we've had all of these guys scouted. Here goes the first closer, number 8 overall, the San Diego, Enrique Rincon. Fully scouted. Colorado takes the next closer, probably the guy I thought this guy was probably the best, at least scouted player in the draft. But there's just no way I was taking a closer that early. But I think he's gonna be really good. Unfortunately for him, he was picked by Colorado. That's a tough spot to have to go start your career, but Andres Velez looks pretty damn good. Steven Rincon, center fielder, goes to Los Angeles Angels. Center fielder Manny Santos. Okay. Yeah, we scouted him. Yeah, so Manny Santos goes to White Sox. The Reds pick another closer here, Steve Cardenas. So 3 closers. And the fourth closer now goes to the Giants, where they're not playing around. I've seen all the success that the Tigers have had with having a great closer. I say that very sarcastically. 14th is Texas. They get Jorge Gallegos. Or Gallegos, however you say that. The Phillies get second baseman Dan Sisler. We did not scout him, nor did we scout Gallegos. Let's see. Boston selects Enrique Mota, starting pitcher. The Cubs pick left fielder Brady Clinton. So now we were definitely seeing some players we did not scout. Philip Caruso, second baseman, is selected by Arizona. Hideo Akita, we did look at him. He was a starter who didn't throw, just didn't strike a lot of guys out. And I said he'd be a cool pick if he had like a sinker ball or something. But he didn't really. But he goes to the Mets. I really like this catcher, Kelvin Shoemaker. I didn't get to finish scouting him, but I thought if I had had more time, I was really curious to see how he turned out. Because he does have 80 blocking. He's a left-handed hitting catcher. He's about the same size as the guy we just picked. And I just was curious to see what he was going to look like. Because, again, he looks pretty solid. But the Brewers get him. Our first relief pitcher, I think, as I scroll back up. Yeah, non-closing relief pitcher goes to St. Louis. So Ryan's team, they pick up Tom Min from South Korea.
Terrible pick.
The first 18-year-old high school relief pitcher from South Korea.
What are we doing?
I wonder if that's ever happened.
What are the Cardinals up to? Relief pitcher?
Yeah,
they're going to turn him into a starter. I heard they're going to turn him into a starter. That's the deal there.
Probably. Let's see. He's got 3 pitches. Yeah, I guess he could. Stamina of 30, though. Yikes. Cleveland picks catcher Brad Barnwell. We didn't scout him. We don't know a lot. Washington picks relief pitcher Chris Escalona. Looks pretty good. But again, a right-handed relief pitcher. Goodness. Barely talking 1.5 WAR on a season. Tampa Bay takes second baseman. Oakland picks Chris Hogsett. He's a catcher. Atlanta goes Augustin Mota, catcher. The Twins, sorry, I just forgot to show that guy. Twins go Marco Chavez. We did scout him. I liked Marco Chavez, but he was one of the guys who just didn't throw very hard. The Yankees go second baseman Buster Dionis. Looks like a pretty good player. Really nice contact. Decent fielding. Very fast player, though. The Dodgers go relief pitcher. They go Lou Chapman. He looks really bad. And to round out the first round, Houston goes catcher Mike Morales. So there we have it. Are you guys noticing what I'm noticing? We have one pick done in the compensation round, and that was Miami, who picked Ronaldo Langston. Looks pretty good, actually. Third baseman here. Seems to have a pretty nice bat, pretty good fielder, too. And he's got a sweet haircut.
what you noticed.
Yeah. Both of those guys are still there. So I guess what that's done is this confirmed I'm super glad we didn't pick him number 1 overall. But damn it, now we have this predicament of like, well, how bad are they? Right? And like now we're having to totally guess. So again, we have a compensation pick. We pick again the first pick of the second round. And then of course, we don't have a comp in the second. And then our next pick's in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, obviously. So, like, we have 2 picks that are really, really close here. We pick, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks later, we pick again. So, like, first thing, realistically, like, we could pick both of those guys. And we don't even have to look. Without accuracy, we know those are the guys we would pick. But let's look at who we do have an accurate picture of. And really, at this point, anything becomes fair game, because I talked about, hey, there was a lot of yesterday's stream and a few others. I said there's a lot of starting pitching in this draft that I like. It's a deep starting pitcher draft. And there's guys that we were even considering who were fully scouted for the number 1 overall pick who are still here. So, again, I think we're looking at kind of 4 categories, right? You're looking at the green bars, which is what we're sorted by. We're looking at the MLB estimated time of arrival, potential, and then even the overall grade is kind of where are they at currently. Kind of shows you how close they are to being fully developed and so on. So now this is where they don't necessarily, if there's a good player here and he's 2024 and beyond, I'm okay with that. But right off the bat, I mean, only having a 64 potential, which by the way, let me, I don't know if I can. Yeah, okay, so I can back out. So, looking at the potentials of who are drafted, we have one player, a 65, but we don't know if that's true. He wasn't fully scouted. I'm seeing if there's any, 65 players who are, actually scouted that went. Otherwise, I mean, to me, it's that's way too much of a reach. Yeah, so there's nothing like that at all. So I can tell you that, we're not going to pick a guy, who is, even if he's fully scouted, because I actually like Angel Arroyo, I actually like this guy. I don't know why he's rated so low. But I mean, this guy's good. But it seems like we can definitely get him later on. So I like him, but not here. Definitely not in the compensation pick here. So now JT Curry has full potential, 80 potential. He's fully scouted. High injury risk, though. That's a red flag for sure. Otherwise, I mean, I do like this guy, but not loving him just yet. We have a fully scouted right fielder, Steve Joseph, who may have secondary positions. I have no idea. I think the only issue with Steve Joseph here is his vision and plate discipline. He's just kind of more of a hacker. He's kind of like a Jay Buhner. If you use Jay Buhner in Diamond Dynasty, he profiles very much like a Jay Buhner. Again, not a bad pick at all. There's a lot of really good players. I really liked, Jermaine Burroughs is still there. We talked about him a little bit. Phil Ham. Again, I'm a little worried about his velocity, perhaps not reaching its full potential. There are a lot of really, really good players here. Like this is hard. This draft's hard. It's probably easier if I sort by potential and look for guys we scouted. So we saw Joseph. We almost have a full scouting report on Pierre Couch, left-handed starter. Again, just not crazy about him. I wish Phil Ham threw harder because I do like Phil Ham. I'm going to leave Randy Snelling up on the screen for a second. He's a shortstop, 80 potential. He's fully scouted. And again, it's like one of these mystery players. I don't know why his ratings are so bad. And like, I don't know what that is. Is that like my scout's nuts? Or like, I don't know what this means. Or is it just more tied to his estimated time of arrival? But still, like, shouldn't you be able to see he's got far better potential than that? So I don't know what to make of these players, but I'm scared to draft him. I like G.T. Curry, but he's got a high injury rating. But he's fully scouted and looks really good. For honorable mention, I'll look at the guys who are 75.
Would you mind looking at Burroughs one more time real quick?
Yeah. Let's go back up to Jermaine Burroughs. He just has a low K per 9 and a low hit per 9.
Okay.
But he's got a splitter. But if I say, like, I wish it was his primary pitch, because then I'd be like, oh, okay, he's like a double play machine. But
yeah, that's actually what I would, because the splitter and the slider. I mean, you could see with 90. Well, he's 93 fastball. Yeah, with the splitter and slider. I was thinking that could be a big strikeout guy. But yeah, I mean, the K through 9 is actually a bit low.
correct. Yeah.
So yeah, he's already 22.
Yeah. I like him. I just don't, probably not here. So I'm doing honorable mention on these 75s. Jonathan Maxwell. Oh, good.
No, I was just gonna say, and because I want to let you kind of talk it out with these 2 picks over the next 7, but I mean, you know, you want if you want me to jump in on anything, feel free. But I just want to make this point and then kind of let you run with it. But
Sure.
one way of perhaps approaching it, you know, would be to obviously for one of the 2, you kind of make that gamble pick, and then the other one would be the safer kind of guy that you scouted and have, you know, that information on. So
yeah, I agree. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm just kind of doing my due diligence here just to see, like, well, who would the who's player A, who's player B here.
Yeah, sure.
But I just have Jonathan Maxwell up here. Again, not a bad player, but high injury risk, and I'm going to avoid that here, especially in these first 3 picks. He's also not fully scouted. Greg Stanley is also not fully scouted. Just don't know enough about him, so we're going to pass on him. Pedro Urban, we've talked about 1,000 times. He is an excellent outfielder, which is something that we could really use in Comerica Park. He's got pretty good speed. He could definitely steal some bases. He's got good power. He's a switch hitter too, which is pretty nice. Just his plate vision and discipline are a little bit low. Struggles a little bit hitting against lefties. But Pedro Urban might be a guy I like the most out of, getting these guys who are like 75 or 80 potential that we've actually scouted. Very nice to have a switch hitter. I mean, this guy, his defense is just crazy good. Crazy good. Buster Driscoll, we haven't fully scouted. Looks okay. So yeah, I mean, I think we definitely take one of those gamble players. Again, just looking again. I mean, good grief. But yeah, gosh. I mean, the fact that every team passed on them, like someone had to have scouted him. And so, like, if he was scouted, he's not as good. I mean, there's just no way. And I don't want to waste these 2 picks. who's the most MLB ready? So the most MLB ready starting pitcher are 65 overalls. And there's a few guys we did scout. Again, Phil Ham, I keep coming back to him. He just doesn't throw very hard, but neither did Greg Maddux. But this guy doesn't have the control Maddux has. He just threw harder. And I do like him, but... So yeah, I don't think I'm picking a pitcher. JT Curry is probably the one I like the most, but high injury risk. Otherwise, I really like JT Curry. But just not enough to pull the trigger. I looked at Phil Ham a million times, and again, love Phil Ham, he just doesn't throw hard. But he has 75 velocity potential. So, like, does that mean he's going to grow into it? I mean, obviously, you'd think, but why do these other guys then have, like, here's a guy with 80-80, he throws 93. So if you have 80-80 for your velocity rating, but your fastball's 93, and then I click over to Phil Ham, and he has 60-75, so I guess does that mean he should be able to get his velocity up to, like, 91, 92?
Well, and it's a two-seamer rather than a four-seam, which maybe could be part of it.
Sure. Yeah, good call. Again, splitter's a pretty good pitch, so slider in this game. I mean, if I was going to take a pitcher, I guess it probably would be Phil Ham. If we just
so for
look
the
at hitters.
the dark horse guy pitcher, for the dark horse, you would only consider the outfielder, not the pitcher.
No, not at all. Yeah, I would. I mean, I could consider taking both those guys the next two picks. I think I'm just freaked out that like every team passed on them both. So like, let me put it this way. I think if I were to pick a pitcher, obviously we have the undrafted or the unscouted guys. There's, the two guys we've been looking at who are like 80-80, but they're not scouted. If I were to take guys who are scouted, I think it would be where do you go? I forget who it is now. Pedro Urban, I think, would be the outfielder. But again, from what we're seeing here is like he is at best going to be, like an above average hitter at best. So I think it's too early to take Pedro Urban, honestly. Now, if he's there in the third round, I think that'd be a solid pick for sure. I think. So that kind of narrows it down to, maybe three players I'm looking at, which of course are the undrafted two, the unscouted two, and then Phil Ham, who is kind of the proven starter. And I'm pretty confident that the only way we'd get all three is if I took Phil Ham first. But I don't know, because, I mean, good grief, what if this guy does pan out as a hitter? This Giancarlo Chavez. I mean, look at the hitters we picked in this draft. I mean, it's going to be insane. Like, he's really hard to pass on. So, like, so even looking at, like, now let's look at his light blue, right? His current ratings. Now, again, those can change too. But, like, he's already, like, decent player, right? His plate discipline's, not very good. And it's interesting because, like, I'm looking at, like, the things that typically don't change, right? Like speed. It's not like he's going to suddenly get crazy fast. Those things are matching up. But what worries you is that, like, how much higher the dark blue hitting ones are. And to me, it's not so much that, like, yeah, he's an 80. It's just that, well, we just haven't scouted him. So, I mean, it could be anything. Because essentially everything is an 80. Except for his low plate discipline, just because his plate discipline's pretty low. So, like, I don't really think those, as much as we want to fall in love with, though, I think it's BS. I really do. They might be 70s, but I think this guy, I think we'll know. I think the proof's in that all the teams have passed on him. I think this guy's going to still be there later. Now the starting pitcher, let's see if it's a similar thing with him. Alberto De La Cruz. I mean, his K per 9 is so much lower than his potential. Whew, man, this is a tough call.
The current velocity and break are there too, so it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, the stuff is there, but will the actual K ability develop?
Yep, right. Low injury risk. Got some. Haven't checked the chat in a while. Let's see what people are saying here. Marco says Ham. I mean, Ham again he probably is the safer pick. The hit per 9 is a little worrisome. So is the home run per 9. You know, this guy, as a Tiger fan, it kind of reminds me of when Anibal Sanchez was pitching for the Tigers. I mean, the guy would be like no hitter good. And then like the next game, it's just like, you gave up 3 home runs this inning. Like, what the hell is going on? And like that's who Phil Ham reminds me of. Anibal Sanchez. Now again, Anibal Sanchez won the ERA title, 1 year, and I mean the guy is an outstanding pitcher when he's pitching well. I really just think I hate to be so conservative with this, but like I need to be picking players I scouted. There's a reason I scouted these players, right? And if we sort again by potential, that's what's going to matter the most. Just looking at these guys again, right? So we have Steve Joseph, good hitter, can play the outfield, and can play it pretty well. It's pretty good speed. I mean, I like Steve Joseph. I already feel more comfortable picking a Steve Joseph than the 2 like hot prospects who we haven't scouted. Pierre Couch is not fully scouted, so I'm going to pass on him for now. Phil Ham is in the mix. Randy Snelling, as I mentioned, he's the mystery pick. I would love to pick him, but I mean, the 2024, I guess, is kind of a deal breaker. So we do need a shortstop. He's not going to be ready anytime soon. Jermaine Burroughs. Again, it's just really, really worried about the hit per 9. I don't think he's as good of a pitcher as Ham. There's this Bernardo Paniagua, however you say it, Paniagua. Again, not bad, but there's so many pitchers. I mean, some of these guys will be there. Here's the other guy I really like, right? JT Curry, but that high injury rating. I'm kind of thinking we go like Ham and Steve Joseph here. I guess the thing with Steve Joseph is, do I like Steve Joseph or Pedro Urban? So Urban doesn't have as good of a potential. He's 65-75, whereas Joseph is 60-80. So Joseph just has a wider range altogether. He's more likely to boom. He's more likely to potentially, bust a little bit. It's maybe just a riskier pick. But if we back out, again, have we had teams drafting players who are like 75 that are actually scouted? Like, I want to make sure we're not reaching, is what I'm looking at here. We looked at those and see, like, they haven't. Like, I honestly think it's too early to take even a 75 potential player. And we have 80s who are scouted. So I really think we go Steve Joseph and Ham. And it's really in whatever order. So Ham's at 65-80, ready in 23. I think we go Phil Ham here. And I'm good with it. Like I said, I have no problem beefing up on pitching. All right, I'm picking Phil Ham. It's done. selection has been made. So let's see how the rest of the compensation round went. The hot prospects still were not picked. Neither was the outfielder I was looking at getting. So we have the same predicament. And the longer this goes, the more that I'm just like, okay, let's see. I'm looking to see if they have any of these 75. So here's our first 75 player who was just about fully scouted with us. Jonathan Maxwell went. But still, it almost seems a little early to be picking a player not with 80 potential. Oops. So again, Steve Joseph. I mean, this guy can be a good hitter, right? Granted, he might not draw a lot of walks, but again, a Jay Buhner, again, very similar to kind of like C.J. Cron, who's on the Tigers now, but he can play outfield. He's got an excellent arm in right field. He can steal some bases. I like Steve Joseph. JT Curry, again, just injury risk. Has me worried. Let's give the 75 overall. It's just again, an honorary look here. So Pedro Urban, right? He's the switch hitter. But I don't know, he might be available next round. Maybe he's who we take in round 3. Yeah, I'm good with it. This is
I
getting a little
really
easier
like
now.
Urban's profile, but sorry, Mike. I really like Urban's profile there, but
yeah, let me go back to him. Where'd he
but
go?
yeah, he might be there in the third round. Just because I like the switch hitting.
For sure.
Doesn't seem like he overly favors one. He's basically pretty consistent on the contact and power for right and left.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, being that he's 75 potential, he could still be there in the third round.
Yeah, he definitely could.
I know it means nothing in game, but I also like the size. Just a big, lanky 6'4" kind of switch hitter. I kind of like the thought of that.
And hey, maybe it does mean something in the PlayStation 5. Who knows? In this game, who knows? But probably not. But yeah, we're gonna make Steve Joseph our second round pick. Now he might be a little bit slower to get to the show here, but that's okay as we get into the second round. We're looking again, best available player. He's scouted. All of our picks here have been safe, and I'm good with these. So Steve Joseph is the pick. We'll start going a little quicker now too. So there's a lot of compensation picks. So we are back to the start of round 3, but let's recap here. So we picked Joseph. So Chet Blum is gone. We did like him. I'm just looking for names that we were looking at. We were talking about Greg Stanley a little bit. He's off the board to Boston. Hey, Russ Irby. We totally forgot about this guy. That's okay. He's only a 7. So we have a 70 potential, but unscouted. So that Russ Irby, he went to the Cubs. But again, he wasn't really a guy. Randy Snelling, that shortstop I really liked, went to the Cardinals. I shouldn't say the one I liked, but the one who has 80 potential and we don't know why. So, Ryan, you'll have to help us remember to keep an eye on Randy Snelling to see what the hell happens with him. Because his rating is horrendous, but his potential is 80. So, really weird.
The only thing I can think of, maybe because he's only 18 and maybe a younger guy, they figured is going to... Yeah, I don't know. It is a weird thing, but keep an eye on him.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes. Let's see. So we're at the end of the second round. Those hot prospects still were not picked. Guys, I'm so happy I didn't pick those guys first overall. Oh my gosh. We're now into the compensatory picks here in round 2. And still nobody picked really that we were talking about. Now we have the competitive balance round B. These are the picks that are actually allowed to be traded, at least in MLB. These are the only draft picks you can trade. Let's see. Still nothing. So all of those guys are still available in round 3. So I think this is an easy choice here. I mean, we're sorting by potential again. JT Curry's still there too. Good grief. I mean, to me, it's JT Curry or it's Pedro Urban. And I guess now we're in round 3. We could even start looking at guys who are 70 potential that we have scouted. I don't know if there aren't any. We actually don't have anyone scouted. Just so we don't miss out, let's look at the 65s. Andres Vasquez is a center fielder. Again, pretty good defender, pretty quick, but nothing we're going to be reaching for. Ray DePriest. Again, nothing we're going to be reaching for. And that's it. So, yeah, this is I mean, I guess there's 4 players we're considering. Of course, the 2 hot prospects that get less hot and less hot every round that they keep getting passed over. And to me, like, I'm going to pick those guys as soon as I'm done picking guys that I know I like, right? So, like, if both those guys were gone and I'm like, oh, I don't know who to pick, I would pick one of them right now. But because they're both still there, right? Yeah, wow. Alberto De La Cruz is still there. And so is Chavez. My goodness. So to me, yeah, like I said, it comes down to I do like JT Curry, but the high injury risk, that's a big thing. That's a really, really big thing. If he was the only guy, I would pick him. And it comes down to Pedro Urban. I mean, and I guess the delay on Pedro Urban is that we're passing on an 80 starting pitcher to pick a less potential hitter, but who has average injury risk. And so in the injury risk, to me, that knocks you down at least from an 80 to a 75. At the same time, like Pedro Urban, it's not like he's going to like light the world on fire with his hitting. I mean, he could be pretty solid, but you're basically drafting just an athletic player, basically. He can play a hell of an outfield. He can run the bases, and he can probably chip in and hit. It is nice. He's a switch hitter. He's a 65 currently. JT Curry, just a little bit more of a bigger range. So I do think JT Curry is the riskier pick. Also, his home run per 9, pretty low. So I think we go Pedro Urban here. And just beef up our hitting. Curry, I just said Marco said Curry seems like the real deal. Who's Curry? I'm not sure who he was talking about. Might have already been drafted. Let's see. Curry. Oh, JT Curry. Duh, what am I talking about? Yeah. So, yeah, right. That's the tough decision here. JT Curry, who I agree, I think looks like a better player, but the high injury risk. I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of think you're right. I kind of think JT Curry might be the better pick here, just because you need, I mean, 5 starting pitchers. And I know the Tigers are deep at starting pitching, but like, there's still a solid chance that Urban is there in round 4. I mean, there's still, I mean, scouted players we have. He's the last fully scouted player that we scouted as an 80 overall. I'm sorry, he's not. There's still another pitcher, Jermaine Burroughs. I really think we could probably get both these guys, and then maybe one of those crazy prospects in like round 5. This draft could be crazy. Ryan, any thoughts?
For some reason, I've kind of gotten a bit attached to the switch hitter. You're more familiar with the names. I keep forgetting the names. I'm sorry about that. But
Pedro Urban.
Yeah, but I understand the thinking for sure. I mean, like you said, that he's the last. I think you said he's the last 80 potential scouted player you have, and so and you said it. I mean, starting pitching is a premium thing, and he's got the current velocity.
Yeah, right. He's already thrown 96 at 22. And Ryan, I
And
really think
stamina
we can
too.
get both these guys. I think we can get Curry right now, and we can get Urban in round 4.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is you could very well still get him. So yeah,
All right,
I think you think it. Yeah,
JT Curry, here we go. Let's see if Urban makes it.
Marco's happy.
Oh, Pedro Urban just got picked by the Phillies. I just saw it. He went in the same round, 15th, Pedro Urban to the Phillies. Dang it, that's like the first like roll of the dice that we lost out on. Let's see if any of those Alberto De La Cruz went 8th to the Padres. So he's gone. And Giancarlo Chavez went to the Angels here in round 3. So dang, we just struck out on all 3 of those guys. Oh my gosh. But I mean, we didn't scout those guys. There's no way you can pass on. It's not like we got bad picks. I mean, we've ended up with 2 starting pitchers and the hitter we liked overall. Oops. Nope. Don't simulate. Hang on here. Where am I at? So, yeah, I'm just going through some of the other names that are now off the board. But yeah, I mean, the 3 big names that we had our eye on are all gone. Jermaine Burroughs goes to the Brewers. Well, it's going to make it more interesting now. We got 3 more picks and a lot of players to take a look at. But again, like if we would have picked one of those guys, like JT Curry would certainly be gone by now. It seems like so. But here's what we have so far. Actually, we've picked 4 players. I forgot about that. We picked Steven Joseph too. So we have an infielder slash catcher slash outfielder. We have Steve Joseph, the outfielder, and so we've gone hitter pitcher, hitter pitcher, right? I think is what we did. So pretty good mix, and we've gotten 4 players that are fully scouted at 80 potential. 2 of them are, their potentials to be on the team in the next couple of years. That's pretty solid for sure. Well, if we sort by players scouted, we only have 3 players who are still fully scouted. The highest potential they have are 60 and 65. So obviously we're running pretty low on scouted players. Let's see if we have any scouted players here who are going in round 3 that are rated in like the 60s as far as potential that we can actually prove is like legit 60. And I don't know if we're going to see a whole lot because we didn't scout many guys. When I started seeing them creep down that low, I would start to bail. But like what I want to start doing here, like for instance, like I just randomly pulled up Connie Stevenson here as I was thinking about this, is like I want to start looking for role players like this. So like maybe not like speed stealing guys, you can sign that in free agency, but like I want to look through the shortstops and like find a guy who's just like a defensive wizard, to use another St. Louis Cardinal reference there. But so I'm going to be looking for stuff like that even, especially with these last 3 rounds. Like we've gotten pretty good talent here. So let's actually start just by looking at shortstop. There's only 3 guys left, one of which we did scout. So we have not looked at Robbie Bolden. He's a pretty good defender, but high injury risk. The guy looks like he's straight out of like 1983. That mustache and that hair, that's pretty amazing. So Robbie Bolden, pretty good defender. Not so much in Kiki Conroy. And then Danny Gilbert, we did scout. Ooh. And he is not to be confused with the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Dan Gilbert. But he's actually a pretty good player. He's only got 60 potential. But damn, this is like another, like, well, when do we pick this guy? He's only 60 potential. But like, I mean, I love that for sure. Look at the power,
Yeah, I was
fielding
gonna say
speed.
got a little bit of power. The fielding already at a 70 with 80 potential
Yeah,
speed.
and he's one of the
Yeah,
guys we did actually finish, even if it is a bit of a reach. I mean, we're in what round four now, so it's like, well, I mean, these are all roll the dice. Like, this guy. I mean, we know that he's gonna do something right. So at the very least, I don't mind that at all. I'm not as concerned with center field just because we have Riley Green as a prospect down there. But again, as we look at the players that we have scouted, so Ray DePriest is another one. Um, 65 potential outfielder. He's not bad, but I definitely like Danny Gilbert more. Um, Andres Vasquez, similarly, pretty good center fielder. Not a great arm, not a great hitter. Nice speed. So I would still put Danny Gilbert above him. Now we have Pierre Couch is interesting because he's a starting pitcher. We're not done scouting him, but his scouting accuracy is almost full, and this guy's still got 80 potential. He's also a lefty. Um, he's got some untapped velocity, so I mean, this guy could probably throw 96 eventually. And he's a lefty. So I mean, Pierre Couch might be our best value pick. Um, Buster Driscoll. Buster Driscoll is the guy we were like talking about for the first overall pick at one point. So like definitely Buster Driscoll and Pierre Couch. And again, I know like, well, we're drafting pitchers, but you can always move these guys, or you could always trade Casey Mines, you could always trade Manning and these other guys. I have no problem with that. I mean, we want collateral. That's what we're trying to accumulate here. Um, so to me, it's like if we look at kind of scouted, there's three options. There's Gilbert, there's Couch, there's Driscoll. We can probably narrow down the pitchers just by kind of flipping back and forth here between the two. Yeah, both pretty good. I would probably go with Pierre Couch though, just to get a lefty in the mix.
yeah, I like the lefty too. 6'5".
Yeah. So now if we sort by unscouted potential, there's only a handful of 80 guys left. Now again, these are all unscouted, right? So as we scroll through this list here, I mean, there's some huge asterisks going on. So like they really have to be like, oh damn, like like what's going on? Like they have to be something really, really impressive. I'm not even looking at relief pitchers still. There's just too many good players left. Starting pitcher. Is there? Oh yeah, there's that one right fielder, that David Tamori, the guy from Japan. High injury risk, but I mean he's got uh, hitting traits that are just, I mean, through the roof. So if we wanted to roll the dice on a guy, you know, he might be our last chance to do that. He's got the high injury risk, but I mean, again, it'd be kind of a roll the dice. Here's a second baseman, pretty decent hitter. Okay, not bad. But I mean, David Tamori, like they're saying he could play next year, technically. So I mean, he's an intriguing guy. Here's a relief pitcher who looks just, I mean, sick. Already a 75. But he's a righty. Like if it was a lefty, I'd consider it. But like you can find right-handed. I mean, I literally found guys off the trash heap at the start of the season, and they're doing just fine. So I'm gonna say no to Barney Galindo. He's got an amazing name. There are a lot of starting pitchers. How many of these guys are 80? Oh, he was the last one. So Hank Floyd's the last one. I mean, gosh, I mean, there's probably three guys I like. I like the shortstop. I like Pierre Couch. But I also really like this David Tamori. We haven't rolled the dice on anybody yet. And I know he's got a high injury rating. But I mean, he is, there's actually a handful of guys who are still slotted as being MLB ready by next season. But as we scroll through and look at these guys, so again, relievers, I'm not opposed to it, but just not yet, especially if they're righties. No big rush there. Here's a lefty starter they're saying is going to be ready, but we haven't scouted him. It's tough to say. Here's an interesting guy. Here's a catcher, Mike Roberts. 80 blocking. Damn, he looks really good too. Look at that beard on this dude. He's a lefty bat. So, I mean, this is definitely a roll the dice guy here. Yeah, Mike Roberts looks pretty damn good. David Tamori.
Catcher is another area like shortstop a little bit with the Tigers, where it's a bit of an empty vessel right now. There's not a whole lot.
For sure.
I mean, I know you got Rogers, but it's an interesting gamble there. Although it's like a lot of these guys could still be around in 5 and 6. It's hard to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to pass on the shortstop for now because I do think he'll still be there. And he might even be like our 6th round pick because I really like him and I hope we can still get him. Here's even the second baseman, right? Kurt Ramirez. Again, we haven't scouted this guy though, but slotted to be available next year. I mean, I don't care about his arm as a second baseman. Great defender. Can steal bases. I mean, this guy could be a leadoff hitter, no problem. I mean, okay, so there's probably 3 hitters that we could roll the dice on. There's the second baseman, Kurt Ramirez. There's the outfielder, David Tamori, who has high injury risk. And there's the catcher, Mike Roberts. Mike Roberts, even if his hitting doesn't get up to that level, I mean, this guy, he looks like a Buster Posey, like a left-handed Buster Posey. Potentially. I mean, again, huge asterisk there. Not the most accurate arm, but I mean, whatever. He's an outstanding defensive catcher, so it seems. His fielding's already really high, so I mean, at the very least, the guy's gonna he could hold down a roster spot. Right now, like with his current ratings, again, those might not be accurate. He could already be on a roster as like a backup catcher. Hell, even a starter probably for some teams. Again, huge asterisk. So I probably like Mike Roberts more than Tamori even, just because, I mean, one, easier to find corner outfielders. He has high injury risk. How old is he? So he's 20. Mike Roberts is 21. Kurt Ramirez is 20. Kurt Ramirez is just an awesome fielder. I mean, he is. Like, he's got 70. I mean, you'd think that's pretty accurate. He's already fast. But he's only 70. So, again, he's more likely to be around, whereas Mike Roberts is 75. Like, to me, it's like Mike Roberts or Pierre Couch is probably the pick here. Pierre Couch is I mean, he's probably the safer pick. I think it's very safe to say. I can't believe Pierre Couch is even still available. But there's still other starting pitchers I like. I mean, if we go look at catchers, how many catchers are there that we even like? So, I mean, he's nothing special. There's Mike Roberts. He's nothing special. And again, I'm mostly looking at, like, blocking. These guys aren't anything special. We gotta go Mike Roberts here. I think it's time we rolled the dice. This is what, round 4? That gives us 2 more picks. So we could take the shortstop, and then like next round, we'll maybe take the shortstop round 5 or 6, and then we'll just do one of our miscellaneous picks for the last one. It'll either be like Couch if he's there, or one of those other hitters we're looking at. But I think Mike Roberts is the pick here. So we're going to make our first blind pick. Mike Roberts. We are into round 5. So to recap, as I just scroll through, Ray DePriest just went. We looked at him. He goes to Kansas City in the 4th round. It'll be fun to start seeing these guys like Ray DePriest when I'm playing the Royals and try to remember some of their names. I'm glad we took that catcher because Rob Mendez went to the Braves, and I don't think he's anywhere near. And again, we didn't scout these guys, but he'd be a good like benchmark to see which catcher turns out better. So all of those guys are still available. Every single one of them. Pierre Couch is still available. I haven't finished scouting him, so he's not a lock to be an 80. David Tamori still there. Buster Driscoll is still there. The shortstop's still there. So Danny Gilbert, I kind of think, well, again, I don't want to stretch too far. Like, let's see. Oh, yeah, so Ray DePriest, I mean, he's going. So guys are going who are like 60 that we've scouted, in the 60s at least. And I really would like to get this shortstop. So it's just like, do we pick him now or do we wait? And if we sort, I mean, he is, like, let's just see, like, where do the 60s even start coming in? So he's like the 42nd ranked player. So, I mean, he should still be there, but I don't know. And I guess the difference is like, there's still some guys here that, I don't know, I can't believe these guys would fall this far, but, I mean, if we took Pierre Couch or Buster Driscoll or David Tamori in the last round, I mean, I'm thrilled with any of those guys. So to me, I think we take the last guy we have fully scouted that we know we like. Again, he's kind of the opposite of that shortstop that San Francisco got. Like, this is like what the ratings I feel like should look like for I'm sorry, not San Francisco, for St. Louis. So this guy's got kind of crummy potential, but his ratings look really good. So I don't know. I think we go Danny Gilbert here. It's maybe a little early, but I just want to make sure we get him. And it's the 5th round. I mean, stretching the second to last round is not a huge concern. And it's really barely a stretch. So, yeah, I think we do it. Danny Gilbert. Got our shortstop, potentially. Okay, so let's see what's left for the 6th round. David Tamori goes 7th in the 5th round to the Pirates. But again, it doesn't mean a whole lot other than we know he's injury prone, so I'm not super concerned about that. The center field Jose Abreu. Forgot about him. We saw him yesterday. Awesome base stealer. Pierre Couch went to the Yankees, 28th. Damn. He almost fell to us, though. Just makes me wonder if that shortstop would have fallen, but it's okay. If he was fully scouted, I would have picked him. But I don't know. I mean, what if he was a 60? I'd rather have the shortstop. So that's why I made that pick, and I'm comfortable with it. Plus, we still have Buster Driscoll. So if we want to pick him, we could. He's almost fully scouted as a 75. It's also Andres Vasquez, who is fully scouted, who is going to be a strong center fielder, it looks like, with not a great arm, but and also a really, really strong base stealer. So again, this guy wouldn't be bad either. Um, Buster Driscoll is from Hawaii. I mean, that's where I got married. Let's see. Andres Vasquez. It's like the mountain man from Montana with that beard. He's really not a bad player to grab either. It's just I feel like you can get a defensive outfielder who can steal bases pretty much anywhere, so I'm going to pass on him. So Buster Driscoll, or we still there are still players with 80 potential. Oh wait, isn't that second baseman still here? Oh yeah, there's Kurt Ramirez too. Gosh, middle infielder. I'm such a stickler about getting good defenders up the middle. And we really would have gotten everything. We don't really, we have Riley Green in center. Sounds like we got a pretty solid shortstop in the last round. We rolled the dice on a catcher. We'll see. We could roll the dice here on a second baseman. I mean, to me, it's down to Buster Driscoll or the second baseman. He's 21. I'm going to go Kurt Ramirez, I think. Let me check the chat. Last pick here. We didn't do too much rolling of the dice. I like Marcos's reasoning for picking Gilbert. That's funny.
Be tough for me to pass up Driscoll here.
Yeah. He's a guy who's going to keep the ball in the ballpark, it seems. How many times did we roll the dice? Only once. And I kind of like that ratio. Like, I don't really want to roll the dice like, 1/3 of our entire draft. Like, taking one roll of the dice isn't bad. We've taken 2 pitchers. We've taken 4 hitters. And I don't have to find my second baseman in this draft. So yeah, maybe that is the right thing, is take Buster Driscoll. He's also got a pretty sweet name. He might never be like a complete power pitcher or anything like this, but kind of almost looks like a Jordan Zimmerman. If we kind of use the current Tiger roster as an example. Just think it's we just don't truly know what we're getting at that second baseman. All right, we're gonna go Buster Driscoll. That's gonna do it. Let's see if that second baseman gets picked though. Okay, I stopped it because I think it kicks you out at the end, maybe. But let's just see if that second baseman. Okay, so Kurt Ramirez did get picked. He goes to Boston in the 6th round, 16th overall. It's gonna be fun to watch these other players. Andres Vasquez went to the Mets. That was that center fielder we were talking about. Oh, I guess we can't see at the end. So yeah, that's it. That's the draft. Now the bummer is none of these guys have secondary positions. But we did it. I'm gonna save this really quick. And then we can maybe take a look around. Doesn't it start to show us like the actual like legit drafting? So let's see, I'm gonna save this as post draft. Oh whoops. Why did I just save it as?
Yeah, I think if you go to sign.
Yeah, right. let's take a look here. I keep saving this as the wrong thing. So post draft. All right, so yeah, let's take a look. Should we look at the Tigers first? Is that like too obvious? I'm just gonna click over to another team before we
If
make
you
the
remember
decision.
who took our two dark horses, those would be interesting to look at.
I do, and what we can probably just do is just go through teams because I mean, we can just start to look for like some of these names that we see. Boy, Baltimore, a nice draft. Look at all those high potential. So this is the guy who went second overall, if I recall, something like that. He was like a top 2 or 3, so he looks pretty damn good. And they got another pretty good player. So so Kurt Ramirez. Here's the second baseman. So pretty much what we looked at. He's just not as good of potential, so I don't mind passing on him. But he's a good defender. He's a good base runner. Greg Stanley we looked at. Again, nothing crazy. New York did take Pierre Couch. Oh, damn, Pierre Couch. 89 potential. We just missed out on him. Oof, man. All right, well, that's the first one that kind of stings.
Couch was a late round steal, wasn't he?
He was at the end of the 5th round. Yeah, we almost picked him in the 5th.
Yeah, you were a couple of picks away. That was
Yeah, he went 28th, if I recall, in the 5th round, so 3 picks before us. Tampa, I don't think took any of the guys we were looking at. Let's see, this is Toronto's draft, same thing. The White Sox, well, the White Sox got a 97 potential player, Manny Santos, in the 1st round. Have to keep an eye on him. Just clicking back through really quick to see if there's any other like 95 plus guys we missed. And no. So far the White Sox have picked the best player. I'm going to skip the Tigers. We're going to do the Tigers last. So here's Cleveland. Jonathan Maxwell we looked at a little bit. 90 overall. They got him in the 2nd round. Oops. Don't look at that. I didn't look. I just saw Charles Dawson's name. So let's see. So Kansas City, Manny Moreno. Pretty good pick. The rest of their draft wasn't very good. I feel like they did get one of our guys, though. Who did they pick that we were looking at? Oh, maybe not. I mean, I know Ray DePriest we had talked about, but I don't think it was him. Anyway, the Twins, Marco Chavez we were looking at. That's who they picked in the 1st round. The Angels, Steve Rincon. Okay, so Giancarlo Chavez. He was an 85 potential, so he was still a pretty darn good player. And that's who the Angels picked. Looks like in this. I thought they took him in the 3rd round. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, because these are. It looks like they're in order by potential. But I'm pretty sure they took Giancarlo Chavez in the 3rd round. So yeah, there's one of the kind of mystery players. So yeah, he looks good. I mean, would it have been a disaster at number 1 overall? No. But it would have been a reach. So we confirm that. Oakland. Nothing that we were really looking at. Seattle. They got a right fielder, a 94 potential, Jesse Florval. Texas. Houston. They get a starting pitcher, Estevan Ramirez. Lefty, A potential. Here's that other catcher that went to Atlanta in the same round, Rob Mendez. So he's a 76. Same round we picked our catcher. Miami. Chet Blum, a 79. Talk about him a little bit. Washington. The Mets took a few players we were looking at. Andres Vasquez was one of them. He was that defensive outfielder we were looking at. 67 potential, nothing special. Gonna be a bench player. Who was the other one though? Hideo Ikeda, that really slow throwing starting pitcher we looked at. 86 potential, not bad. The Phillies definitely got one of our guys, Pedro Urban, the switch hitter. So he comes back as an 83 potential. So solid player, B potential, 66 overall. So he is a Philly there. He's their best draft pick. The Cubs, not a great draft. They got that Russ Irby guy, 79 potential. But he's already a 68 overall. I mean, like, he could literally play right now, it looks like. As an 18-year-old. Yikes. Let's see, the Reds. I think they're the first team to take a closer. 91 potential, Steve Cardenas. Kelvin Shoemaker was one of the catchers I looked at. The Brewers got him at just 67 potential, so I'm glad I didn't fall in love with him. Jermaine Burroughs. Oh, wow. Jermaine Burroughs is the highest player in the draft so far. 97 potential.
I was just about to shout out Burroughs. I saw that, and I was,
Oof. See, I just didn't like his hit per nine and K per nine. So we'll have to see how it goes out, but those were like immediate turnoffs. Yeah, he looks pretty legit. The center fielder, Jose Abreu, their super fast outfielder, looks like a decent player. The Pirates. Ooh, Pedro Lopez, a 94 potential shortstop. They picked him in the first round. Remember that name. Here's David Tamori. He was that Japanese player with the high injury rate risk. Look at his durability. I mean, it's still progressing, but 37 durability.
hey, Mike, there's a 99 there.
Oh, dang, I didn't see that. Grover Sanders. Who the hell is this dude?
Where'd he come from?
Right. Damn. All right, so the Pirates got the steal of the draft so far. He's a center fielder. Let's see, though, if he can, if his defense continues to improve. Wow. Yeah, I almost missed that. Here's your Cardinals. There's Tom Min, the relief pitcher, first round, 78 potential.
See?
Yeah.
That was a terrible pick.
Yeah, that wasn't very good. But the next reliever was pretty good. Benny Hashimoto. Randy Snelling. So I guess you do have to trust the scouting. I mean, he came back really strong, 87.
Well,
We'll
that
have
was
to see. I
kind
mean, he's
of what I
still
was just
way
looking.
underdeveloped, but
I think that's kind of the same when you look back at that 99 guy, because he was only a 60 current. I think, yeah, maybe the game takes into account the high school
yeah.
player, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're willing to be patient, I guess the theme is like trust the scouting report, not
Right.
necessarily the bars, which of course are part of the scouting report, but trust the overall scouting report, I guess. Okay. Gosh, look at that guy's beard. Some of these beards are just incredible. Like, that's the theme of the draft. Look at that beard. Arthur Wood. That guy's awesome. He's got a sweet name, sweet beard. Andres Velez, I thought was the best player in the draft. He's the closer the Rockies got. Second closer taken, 94 potential. So again, looks to be like a pretty darn good player. The Dodgers. Ooh, the Dodgers had the second best player. JJ Fleer. He was available late. Because I remember thinking like his name looked like Mike Fiers. I think he was available like in the 5th or 6th round. So wow, yeah, they got him pretty late. That's a steal. 98 for the Dodgers. Padres took a few players I think we liked. Enrique Rincon was a second or I think maybe the third closer. They picked him in the 1st round.
Daniel can't take the suspense, man. He wants to see the Tigers.
I know, I'm saving it for the end. Alberto De La Cruz, the starting pitcher we considered for #1 overall, 88 potential.
88, okay. Yeah.
So he looks pretty good. I guess for all like the kind of like miracle picks, so far he's definitely the best one. Which is interesting because he was like I would have probably picked the hitter over him. It was just too tempting. So yeah, I think the Padres had a pretty solid draft. The Giants, they get another strong closer, Johnny Gehringer, 94 potential. All right, it's time to go to the Tigers. I'm curious. I can't switch teams, can I? Let's see, Richie can't go. All right, we're gonna go one at a time. So I jumped in the menu as quick as I could, so you can't see them all. So Charles Dawson is the first name. A potential. I don't know what the potential rating is, but his ratings look sick though so far. So I mean, could this guy be ready to play soon? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to put him up in the team this year, obviously, but yeah, his defense did not check out anywhere near. He's got a long way to go as a defender, but as a first base left fielder, that's fine. Again, maybe an emergency catcher. But we may have drafted a DH. I guess is the only negative out of this. But again, I'd probably rather put him in left field if he can play catcher. That way, you don't have to sacrifice your DH in an emergency. But hey, we didn't completely mess up the pick. I mean, A potential, we'll take it, and we'll actually look at like what their potential rating is. But we're just going to go one at a time here. So in no particular order, because I don't know. Go ahead.
No, I just was speculating when they say a potential. I think that means it's a minimum of 90, I believe.
Yeah, it should be right, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty solid. So whew, I mean, we made the right call because the other guys weren't even the pitcher. He was 88, so I think he's even higher. So whew, good. I'm glad I didn't make a panic pick there. In no particular order, I honestly don't know who's going to be next. So it's Phil Ham, who I think was our second pick, the compensation pick there. He doesn't come back as high as we thought. B potential. So again, we'll have to see and see what he shakes down to be here. Steve Joseph, A potential. So definitely take that. I think he was our 2nd-round pick because Ham was like the compensation pick.
Good power numbers already.
Yeah, that'll be nice. Guy who can play a solid outfield too, can run bases. Yeah, and he could end up being our best draft pick. Just looks like a guy named Steve Joseph from Virginia. I like it. JT Curry, B potential. Let's look at his durability. Pretty bad. It's at 30 right now. So we'll see if he can stay healthy. Mike Roberts, the catcher, D potential. Yeah, doesn't have great blocking, good fielding. I mean, again, he's a guy. He's a dude who can stick around. He looks like actually a better hitter than a catcher. But yeah, we rolled the dice. I mean, we picked him over Couch, I think, who had like an 80-something potential, high 80s. So you win some, you lose some.
That's probably your one maybe regret. Although heck, it's hindsight 2020.
Yep. Yeah, no, you're rolling the dice. I was conscious when I made the decision of just like, oh, I mean, catcher is an important position. This guy looks, he could be something. But again, maybe sticking with that same philosophy of like, well, we had a guy we scouted that looked pretty good. All these teams were passing him like Roberts. We should have known he probably wasn't going to be Buster Posey. Um, but it's okay. Danny Gilbert, D potential. I'm kind of surprised by that. But again, kind of goes to the opposite of looking at the St. Louis shortstop that we were talking about, the low bars, but turns out to have high potential after being scouted. But we also picked Danny Gilbert over Couch. So a couple of guys that maybe you could say, but I still like his makeup. I mean, he still shows he's flashing power. He's already a pretty good fielder. He's just 20 years old. He can already run the bases well. So at the very least, like this guy, can be a really nice nine hitter. I mean, especially at that power. Um, he could just come in and play defense for you. So I'm okay with that. Buster Driscoll, B potential. He was our last pick, right? So Buster Driscoll ends up being a solid pick. His stamina is a little bit lower than we thought. His velocity is 99. So that's interesting to see how that pans out. I think that might be it. Yeah, that's the end. So the actual potential rating, so Dawson 91, Hammond 86, Joseph 94, Curry an 87. Kind of struck out with Roberts and Gilbert, low potentials, and then Driscoll. So I mean, overall, if we had gotten Couch, like this draft would have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I prioritize defense so much, which I know is probably silly to prioritize over pitching. It's not that I do over pitching, but just seeing that, like, boy, the potential to get a really good defender who could be like an all-star bat was just too hard to pass up at those positions. So I don't mind it. I don't mind rolling the dice on it. The lesson for me is I'm sure glad I didn't roll the dice more in the draft. We only really rolled the dice once. It was Roberts. I'm surprised Gilbert came back. I thought for sure he'd be like C or B potential, but I guess that low overall is an indicator. So, but yeah, I'm gonna take a screenshot of that. There's the draft class. Pretty cool. I didn't even know I could do screenshots while I'm streaming. That's good to know. Ryan, any last comments? About drafted out at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the excitement of Dawson and Joseph, kind of that duo. I mean, offensively, what they could bring. I mean, potentially even sooner rather than later is an exciting part of the draft. And then you also pick up, two high 80 potential guys with Ham and Curry. So I think that offsets any disappointment over the hiccup with taking Roberts rather than Couch. And yeah, I mean, I think you're looking at a pretty solid draft. The fan base is going to be ready for you to get Dawson up as soon as possible.
Yeah, he's probably
not this year, but
yeah. He's wasted a year of their eligibility.
Of course, in the game you can't.
Oh yeah, in the game doesn't let you, right? Oddly enough, Danny Gilbert's the second. He's actually rated the same as Charles Dawson currently, both 68 overall. But yeah, I mean, I like that they're all. Like, we didn't draft any teenagers, so these are all going to be players that can start playing, really sooner rather than later, which is nice. So, but yeah, I'm kind of drafted out at this point, so I think we're going to stop it there. But that was fun, and Ryan, thank you for being here. Thank you for talking through this and sharing your thoughts.
Sure.
And super interesting, and just it's always fun to have a company around for these parts. So
yeah, it was fun, and everybody that was contributing in chat, thanks. That was cool too, and yeah, it was. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, for sure. And again, you guys check out Ryan's podcast about the St. Louis Cardinals, Long Gone. You can find that on Spotify and a lot of other places. He has not quite secured the Joe Rogan contract yet, but he's well on his way. So subscribe now while you still have the chance. Yeah, he's also doing the you almost have your first article with SSG ready to post, and you also are still doing your prospecting for Gold series on the YouTube channel, and just all kinds of things going on with Ryan. So again, big thanks for that.
I mean, if I would say an extra word, guys, on the SSG website, you should see within the next day or so an article go up, kind of just going through it. It really is a takeoff of an article Mike had put up on the college football NCAA 14 series, and basically a guide for realism. And so I've tried to basically do the same thing for an MLB The Show franchise, as sort of some guidelines that maybe people want to follow if they are going for ultimate realism. And so check that out, and I wouldn't mind for sure some feedback as well on it. What you guys think of it, if there's any things I've left out that you use, and etc. So yeah, man, thanks for the plug on the platform, and I'll be around for the for the rest of the games, of course, as well.
Cool. Yeah, and hopefully we hear something back about getting the secondary positions fixed, because again, post-draft you can see they're still not there, which is a bummer. So we'll see. I'm not very optimistic. I'm actually more optimistic that they'll fix it, but I'm not optimistic that it'll be like a retroactive fix, unfortunately. So I'm not sure. We'll have to see what goes on. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there. Again, thanks everyone for participating. Thanks for watching live or via later in the stream. I may stream tomorrow's game against the Athletics. I'm not positive, but again, subscribe to the YouTube channel and it'll ping you when we're going. But I'm Mike Lowe, and thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.